And after that, we will have the presentation by Professor Natividad Carpintero Santa Maria and Professor Guillermo Velarde on the history of inertial confinement fusion. And last point will be devoted to the next venue of the conference in 2 years from now. But before looking to the specific place where we are going to meet in 2 years from now, we want to hear from you what is your opinion about the contents, of course also about the organization if you want, but mainly about the contents of the conference. Because we think that the nuclear energy as a field of science and a field of technology, but mainly as a field of science, is becoming a complex system. We are in a situation where nuclear energy is very important worldwide, it's very important in some of our countries, and it happens to be that some of the best, of the most important countries from the point of view of research have already taken the decision of phasing out nuclear energy. That means something that is contradictory to some extent. And I don't know whether this is going to be harmful for the future of research. It's important to take into account that the deployment of Generation 3 is going to be, or is being, much more complex than expected. It's true that the Fukushima accident was also harming the potential of nuclear energy. But it's not only that, there are some countries, as some of the Middle East, who have taken already the decision of going nuclear, but they go little by little, mainly because of reluctancy to join a club where safety and security do not meet total standards. On the other hand, some of those countries who are living, so to speak, the nuclear field in the economic arena, however, they are still operating important facilities of nuclear research. So I would like to hear from you your opinions of the situation, of what you expect to have from here to the future to come, and in particular when we meet in 2 years from now, what do you expect to have in the agenda of the next conference? So the floor is open for your opinion. Manolo, I don't know if you want to add something.
Well, I think important is that the people make, as you said, the comment that they want. But what is true is that the conference, in my personal view, as one of the co-chair of the conference and following the international conference series, is again is successful because of you. And because of the presentation. So, we have had presentation very critical in the areas of materials, in my personal view, from different aspects. The presentation of Mike was really absolutely incredible. We talk about not only fission in the next generation, but in the advanced generation, with a lot of synergies with many of the areas in the fusion, but also with accelerator-driven system hybrids all around, and we saw some quite impressive perspective of the nuclear energy in those areas. That I want to know if you really catch this together. One thing that I felt, in fact, because some of you transmit to me, is that they were very, very happy that people working in some specific areas, for example, for fusion, they came because they learned a lot of things for fission in advanced generation. So that's something quite encouraging, and really give a profit for the follow-up of these areas. We had in our mind, in our system, 3 aspects. One was human resources. I think that you need to say something about human resources. This is something that I think is very, very, very critical for all of us. About systems, we saw a lot of systems that has synergies, and about the fuel cycle, closing the fuel cycle. There were critical presentation about the fuel cycle and the backup of the fuel cycle. for many different aspects, and certainly about fusion. And the other was material, but I mentioned that there was a key presentation for both fission and fusion. So would that justify certainly this ICENES conference? But this is your time to reflect about if these synergies that really existed in this conference is as powerful, I think. So please.
So
make comment about.
Yeah, please, it's your turn.
It's not our turn. It's your turn.
Leila, please.
We have a microphone for Leila. Please, David.
No, it's over here. Sorry.
Thank you.
There.
It's over there.
Two comments. Okay. The title is 16th International Conference on Emerging Nuclear Energy System. I would propose to add nuclear and renewable energy system. So you will open the conference for solar and wind too. Second thing is that in the fusion community, we are moving into pathway analysis, demo, fusion neutron source facilities, and so on. So I would suppose, or I would suggest that you have dedicated sessions on the future or the pathway analysis or roadmaps for fusion.
Thank you, Leila. We will take note of that, and we will transmit to the next conference chairman those suggestions which are very appropriate. And I mean, to my taste, we accept both, of course. Any additional comment?
Yeah,
Paco?
there is one more. Yeah, thank you. Thank you for your contribution, please. This is what really enrich.
Yes, okay. I would like to make a personal reflection, maybe after all these days with many possibilities for improving nuclear technology in general. To my understanding, I think that one point is that the fusion technology has been like slowing down the pace slightly after the NIF closing in 2012. And on the other side, we have observed a very complex pattern to build ITER. So I would like also to add to these elements another one, which is the plutonium management in the world. So. And it seems to me that something has to be done with this plutonium, which is the legacy from light water reactor. And it seems to me that one thing to do is to eliminate all this plutonium. But for this, we have two possibilities. One is to use a technological close to us, but maybe it's not the optimum way to eliminate this plutonium, while the other is to eliminate this plutonium with more sophisticated technology, which is generation 4 technologies. So to me, I think that this is one of the key aspects for the future, is the plutonium legacy there. Most of it is not separated, of course, but whatever can be done in the future should pass through this key aspect to me. This is my personal comment after this, or at least one personal comment to this.
Thank you very much, Paco.
Status.
Is there any other comment? Yes, there are a couple of them. Chen, please. Yes, and then you.
During the meeting, I talked to the Professor Wu, and they showed the interest to head this serious meeting in China, Hefei, and also I discussed also with Professor Sahin. So I just suggest you to note this message. Please have a contact with Professor Wu in Hefei.
Thank you very much for your contribution. Of course, the decision about the next venue is already taken, but we will take into account next conferences in this new pathway that Laila was suggesting of including renewables. For the future, indeed, we will have to go back to Asia, and we were in Japan several years ago, in Chiba, and either China or Japan or Korea can be good venues in the future. Of course, this is something we are not going to forget. I mean, this is where the future of nuclear energy, to some extent, is really rooted for the future, because it's the best market in this very moment. It's also a very important region for research. There was another, okay, yes.
Another comment here.
If you are going to open the scope of the conference, as Professor Laila suggested, just emerging energy systems, this will cover all aspects of energy.
Yes, but we have to take into account that the question of low carbon technologies are still important, in spite of the fact that instead of global warming, we are having global chilling. Because, I mean, it's totally unusual, the weather we are having in Madrid those days, and the weather we have practically all over the world. For instance, I was talking with Professor Said that in Saudi Arabia this month the rainfall has been a record, about 120 milliliters or so. So it's everywhere it's a change of weather. And Carlos Rubio was precisely pointing out the fact that in the last 15 years there is a decline in the average temperature according to the NASA estimates and according to the radiation budget on Earth. But anyhow, we will have to decide, and this is something we will pass to the next chairman, if we put the word renewables or we open it totally, because it's true that in many cases we are finding hybridation. I mean, some power plants which are gas-fired power plants, and besides that they have solar power plants, and maybe in the future we have a combination of several types. We can find solar, gas, and nuclear practically in the same region, in the same, so to speak, energy island, if something like that happens. Okay, a good contribution. Yes, please, Carol.
There's one more comment here.
Do you plan to forward a selection of the papers of this conference to any scientific journal?
Yes.
Yeah. You talk about the process of editing. I think we are going to deal with this problem practically in the end of the closing ceremony. But we can announce that it is already known that we will have a selection. We are in the process of making a selection. We have already met this morning the editors, and I think that very soon you will receive the invitation for sending the paper, not only for the proceedings, but for the journal.
Yeah, well, that's what it was expected in the website. No, is that they will choose some.
I have two questions, and I would expect some kind of manifesto regarding these two questions. One, taking into account regarding nuclear fission reactors, regarding all the accidents, can we the scientists, the experts, come to a conclusion that a completely safe against disasters of a nuclear fission reactor is possible in the nearest future? And this is question number one. Or are we going to fight and to improve all the time, to improve and improve? Or are we going to get to a foolproof, safe reactor? Foolproof against accidents like Fukushima, which may be the worst accident ever happened. Second question, in the long run, are we going to survive as a civilization in the present form without fusion energy? Is the answer yes, no, or we don't know? Thank you.
First, my dear Shalom, I think in the first question that you did certainly we can have a completely different answer in that sense. I'm absolutely sure. So there will be difficult to have a real memorandum of really understanding together about that. If you ask me, my personal feeling is that certainly the part of nuclear is very much related with the new advance in the new reactors. Very much. I know that here there were a fantastic presentation from Westinghouse, Areva, blah, 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 about the next generation. That will be safer and safer and safer and safer, and that will work for some time. But you and me, we know that the efficiency of the fuel is not enough, that the final aspect of the safety, and they are maybe not enough, they are for some time. And in my personal view, the future is very much related with that kind of development for the really close up of the cycle. That's my personal view, and that is something that it was really very much expressed in this conference. People were very much aware not only about the next generation, the immediate next generation, but also about concepts like ADS, hybrids, many different concepts, gas dynamic trapping, and for doing that kind of close backup of the cycle. As some people mentioned here, because of the value of energy and the possibility to really avoid the radioisotopes, the waste that we have in that cycle. That is at least my personal feeling in that. I'm sure that there will be other feelings in the room, but this is to go for safer. And about nuclear fusion, my point of view is, look, I don't know when I hope nuclear fusion will arrive, certainly in some moment. But what is true is that the potentiality that we have in the different areas of nuclear fusion are true, are not untrue, are true, are real. So if that arrives into 2060, 2050, 2040, it doesn't matter because of the potentiality of the source. If it comes in 10 years, in 15 years, which is unrealistic in many aspects, except that some people arrive to some real solution in that, I will be very much happy with that. So certainly we could survive without nuclear fusion for some time, but nuclear fusion can give us a real long-term solution. And there is always a distinction in between nuclear fusion and other sources. Nuclear fusion is the highest power density that you have in the world, and the human knows in the world. And that's a reality against other sources that are also the same, has the same potential, but in another way of use, That's my personal feeling. I mean, of course, all the sources will be in the world in the future. I'm sure about that. Renewable, all the renewables, the fission. But we will survive, certainly, but with a completely different way of use of those sources from the point of view of the society. That's my feeling. I don't know what you have, Chema, but that's my feeling. All of them are possible, are necessary. We can survive with them, but in different kind of use. Different kind of use, because they have a completely different potentiality when they have been used. We have a question. We have now an answer about if electricity will be 90% in 100 years, everything will be electricity or not. That's maybe the first question. If the answer is no, maybe some of the sources we can start to remove, because they are only producing electricity in the first time. So.
I think that Salom's question must remain open for the future, because I find very difficult to answer them. But what I can tell you is what has happened in this country in last 15 years or so. And I'm going to give you the figure of nowadays. In last 4 or 5 months, in Spain, the percentage of renewable energies in producing electricity is 50%, and nuclear energy is 22%. It was almost 35 several years ago, but the increase in demand has reduced the percentage because nuclear energy stays as it was, and the demand has increased quite a lot since the 90s. But if 20 years ago someone told me that we were going to have 50% of electricity coming from renewables, I would say, okay, you are laughing. I mean, this is a joke. And however, we arrived there. Indeed, the technology of renewables is much simpler than technology of fusion because of the fact that Manolo Perlado was pointing out. Renewables energy have the lowest power density, and fusion is the highest power density. And of course, it's much more difficult to harness high power density than low power density. From the point of view of economics, can be different, but from the point of view of technology, it's much more difficult to harness a source with such a high power density as it is fusion. But I think it will arrive, no doubt. More questions? Velarde? Okay.
Yeah, well, let me make one comment, Chema. Just because of the organization of the conference, that it need to be in my personal feeling in this way. You know, all of you attend to the different sessions. This is a unique conference where paper talking about possibilities of arriving to proton-boron. And I look into Salom in this moment. Really, believe me, or other possibilities from other people. The work that the people is doing like Cunio say about many different aspects that normally in the normal conference never are accepted, are here. So that's a tremendous value of this conference. So here it's possible to express ideas that maybe not next year, maybe not in 10 years, but if you have imagination, you could arrive in some moment.
Well, I think we can close the open roundtable, and I would like to switch to the next part of the closing ceremony. In order to know what is going to happen in the future, it's very important to know what happened in the past. So it's very important to have a glimpse on our history. So I invite Natividad Carpenter Santa Maria and Professor Guillermo Velarde to come here and to deliver the lecture. And Manolo, you stay also.
I will stay the chairman here.